Let's dive into the topic of the abomination of tariff today. Back in the 1830s, tariff caused a split between the northern and southern regions. Southerners argued that tariff benefited only the North and made manufactured goods too expensive. John C. Calhoun attempted nullification and threatened secede. President Andrew Jackson fought this states' rights argument. As the John Q. Adams administration drew to a close in 1828, manufactured in the rapidly industrializing Northeast began demanding a tariff tax on imported woolen goods. Protect their industries from foreign competition, especially from Great Britain. Congress responded by passing a bill that added to the growing sectional disputes that were plaguing the young nation. In the South, the economy relied heavily on trade in raw materials such as rice, indigo, and cotton. European nations, especially Great Britain, bought raw goods from the South, turned them into manufactured products, and exported them back to the United States. Many Southerners argued that the tariff made it too costly for Americans to buy these European goods and that it reduced the need for the South's raw materials at the expense of benefiting the North. Angry Southerners referred to the bill as the Tariff of Abomination, declaring that the tariff was so high that it would make importing many goods from Britain impossible. The opposition to the tariff was led by Jackson's first vice president, John C. Calhoun. Calhoun's home state of South Carolina had been severely damaged by previous tariff. He argued that the law was both discriminatory against the South and unconstitutional. The state power should be greater than federal power. Calhoun drafted the South Carolina Exposition and Protest in 1828, declaring that the federal government should not favor one state over another, and a state could declare a federal law null and void if they deemed it unconstitutional. Calhoun's move was not unprecedented, as James Madison and Thomas Jefferson had introduced. Calhoun's exposition caused a great deal of controversy. Many Northerners, whose states benefited from the tariffs, argued that the people, not the states, made up the Union. Many spirited debates took place in Congress, including an 1830 standoff between Robert Y. Hayne and Daniel Webster. Hayne, as senator from South Carolina, argued that nullification provided a way for states to lawfully protest federal legislation. Webster, from Massachusetts, declared that the United States was one nation, rather than a pact of individual states, and that the welfare of the nation overrode that of individual states. As president, Jackson was forced to respond to this dispute. Many Southerners believed that President Jackson, a Southerner who had campaigned on tariff reform, would take a firm stand against the tariffs. In 1832, Jackson asked for a new Tariff Act of 1832 that would lower the tax rate. But Calhoun and South Carolina believed that the slight change was inadequate. The South Carolina legislature then took the monumental step of testing the doctrine of states' rights. On November 24, 1832, a South Carolina convention passed an ordinance of nullification, which forbade the collection of tariff duties in the state. Vice President Calhoun and his home state of South Carolina hoped that, as a son of the South, Jackson would side with them. Instead, on December 10, Jackson issued a declaration upholding the constitutionality of the tariff. The declaration also denied the power of any state to block the enforcement of a federal law and threatened the use of military intervention to enforce the collection of duties. To further drive the point home, Jackson got Congress to pass the Force Act, a bill authorizing the use of U.S. troops to enforce the law, an act which could have very led to civil war if South Carolina or any other state attempted to resist. The same year that the Force Act became law, another law also came into effect. Henry Clay of Kentucky introduced a bill to gradually lower the tariff over the course of several years. Although South Carolina stubbornly nullified the Force Act, they accepted Clay's compromise. Despite the agreement, neither side changed their stance on states' rights. As chief executive, President Jackson took his role as the top enforcer of federal law seriously, even preparing to use troops to enforce the law if necessary. As a champion of the states' rights, Calhoun determined that his position as vice president was an ineffective platform to bring about change. Compromise Tariff of 1833, written by Henry Clay, was passed and was eventually accepted by the South Carolina and ended the nullification crisis. This compromise helped ease sectional tensions. South Carolina backed down and Andrew Jackson won this showdown between himself and the states.